Summer is almost upon us.
It is here.
And
It's
it
so
is
hot
Texas,
outside.
and it's starting to get hot. And so I thought this would be the perfect time to talk about skin cancer and avoiding skin cancer. So, skin cancer is the most common cancer in the United States. In fact, 1 out of every 5 people in their lifetime will get skin cancer. And there's several risk factors for who might get skin cancer, but number 1 risk factor is UV exposure or sunlight.
Yes.
And so, being here in Texas, I mean, it's something that we, as well as people all around the country, just need to be aware of, because skin cancers, although for the most part are easily treatable, they can be very serious and they can cause death. And that does come down to what type of skin cancers are there. So there's 3 major types of skin cancer. And I speak from experience with these. I treat skin cancers all the time, because when patients get a skin cancer that is in an area like the face, where a normal surgeon wouldn't want to try to reconstruct a face, then they get sent to me. So I do skin cancer operations all the time, and I tend to do some of the worst ones as well. So the first most common type of skin cancer is basal cell, and I think I have a picture of a basal cell. Can you throw that up there, Travis? Yeah. So that's a typical looking basal cell. It looks kind of like waxy, fleshy nodule. Now the thing about skin cancers is they can have a lot of different appearances, and that's kind of the classic look of a basal cell, but they don't always look like that. But basal cells are the most common skin cancer. They're very, very, very rare to metastasize or spread throughout your body. In order for basal cells to be really harmful, you have to ignore them for long periods of time. Okay. Next is squamous cell carcinoma. I got a picture of that. That's actually a squamous cell carcinoma that I treated. That's kind of a classic look of a squamous cell. They tend to look like ulcerated, almost like wounds. Now, they don't look like that early on. They'll tend to look more like a heaped up, almost kind of like a wart. Sometimes they'll look like. They can look like almost anything, though. But the kind of classic presentation of squamous cell carcinoma is a spot on your skin that won't heal. And we'll talk about things you need to be aware of. And lastly is the most deadly, and I mean by far, because squamous cell rarely becomes lethal either. It's a little bit worse than basal cell, but not near as bad as melanoma, which show that melanoma. That is a classic looking melanoma. It almost looks like a really weird mole, like a mole that's kind of like bumpy, or it's very irregular looking. You see how it's not really round. It's really dark, and they tend to be kind of rapidly changing or growing. So that's classic melanoma. There's actually 8,000 deaths every year in the United States from melanoma.
Yeah.
And I actually diagnosed a melanoma on my dad when I was in medical school, of all things. He had something on his head, and I said, "Dad, this looks pretty worrisome. You should ask your doctor about it." He's like, "Well, I asked my doctor about it, and he said not to worry about it." And it's like, well, maybe next time you go, ask him again. And so because of that, they biopsied it. It was melanoma, and he was fine because it was really early. But interesting kind of side note there.
That's crazy. Another Kardashian thing. Khloe had skin cancer on her face.
Oh, what'd she have? Do you know? Was it basal?
They said it was a tumor, like in her cheek.
Could be anything. How old is she? She's 30s?
I think she's hitting 40s.
Is she? It's not unheard of for 30 or 40-year-olds to get skin cancer. I mean, 40-year-olds for sure, it happens. 30 would be unusual, but I figured they probably spend a lot of time in the sun.
They probably, no, I don't think so.
Don't they down on the boats and stuff all the time? Like,
I think when they were younger,
when they were younger, yeah.
I think now they're definitely like SPF all over them.
So a couple things about any lesions on your body. You want to think about, okay, what is my age? If I have a lesion on my body and I'm 20, probably not going to be a skin cancer. But any lesion that's changing or growing should be addressed by a doctor or dermatologist. Also, I said this earlier, any spot on your body that won't heal, that's a little bit worrisome for skin cancer. Now, it doesn't mean that any spot on your body is not healing the skin cancer, but you should at least be aware that that is one of the signs of skin cancer. So how do you protect yourself, right? So we're in Texas. We can't stay inside all summer, so what can you do? Well, number 1, sunscreen, right?
Yes.
Sunscreen is the best way to protect your skin from ultraviolet light. You should use SPF 30 plus or more. Make sure it's broad spectrum to catch UVA and UVB. Waterproof sunscreens are great because we sweat. Also, we like to be out in the water doing water things. Make sure you apply it every 2 hours. Also, simple stuff. Seek shade. If you're going to be outside, stand under a tree. Bring an awning. Have an umbrella.
And those moisture wicking clothes, like Avery has a swimsuit that's long sleeve.
You're so right. So that's the next thing. Protective clothing.
Yeah.
Big hats. long sleeve. You want lightweight, tight knit clothes, and they actually have UV protected clothing these days.
Yeah, I think I had bought one for Avery from Old Navy. It was pretty good. I need to buy her a new one. She's outgrown it.
I know it sucks to like be covered up in the summer, but you can get lightweight stuff where it's not.
I don't always put it on her. The only time I put it on her is when I know that she's going to be like outside for a long period of time. Like if we go to like the lake or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's a good thing.
But if we're at like my mom's pool where I know she might swim for like an hour.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay.
Sunscreen needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do the same thing. Being most cautious during the time of day when the sun's the most intense, which is 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Avoiding tanning beds. Most people know that tanning beds have the same ultraviolet light that the sun does, but not everyone. There are people out there that think, oh, well, I'm not at risk for skin cancer because I use a tanning bed and not sunbathe. But that's not true. Tanning beds are just as bad for you. They have the ultraviolet light that can cause risk.
Tanning beds were super popular when I was in
I used to
high
get
school.
in tanning beds. We didn't know any better back when we were young. I mean,
I couldn't. I was allergic to like whatever was in there.
Oh,
I'd
really?
always get like horrible rashes. Like
I mean, those places
maybe it
are
was
kind
like
of sketchy sometimes.
Maybe it was like heat rash or
like
something.
fungus and stuff on there.
I don't know.
Man.
It would always like get on my butt.
Another thing that people don't think about a lot is to be hydrated. Your skin is more vulnerable when you're dehydrated. So you want to keep good, drinking liquids when you're outside in the heat, which keeps your skin hydrated, and also actually hydrating your skin with lotions. Skin that is dry is more prone to damage. Also, medication interactions. There are certain medications such as antibiotics, antifungals, NSAIDs, retinoids, and diuretics that actually make your skin more vulnerable to damage. So if you're taking any unusual medications, it might be worth asking your doctor, is this something that's going to make me more vulnerable to the sun? Also, if you're fair-skinned, people that have red hair, very light skin, are much more at risk for ultraviolet light than people who have darker skin tones.
Yeah.
So if you find any lesions on your body, definitely check with your primary care doctor. Things that I think are most notable is anything that is changing, that means the color's changing, the shape's changing, or it's growing, that you notice it's growing. Or the other thing is lesions that are spots that seem like they won't heal. Like they might bleed and scab over, then they feel like they're gonna heal, but then they bleed and scab over again. That's things that you wanna get checked out. So,
Yeah.
skin cancer.
Scary.
I mean, the good news is outside of melanoma, which can be absolutely deadly, like the most common skin cancers, basal and squamous, are easily treatable. So it's all about protecting yourself as much as you can and just keeping an eye on your skin to make sure that things aren't popping up.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to get skin cancer. When I was young, I worked outside. I installed sprinkler systems.
Have you ever gotten any of?
I've had some spots
basal?
biopsied. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a couple spots pop up, and I was like, ooh, better check that one.
I think
now,
both my mom and dad have had spots
Have
like
they?
that, and then my grandma did have melanoma.
I think I'm younger than your parents, though.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Sure. My parents are old.
Okay, because I'm getting close to that age where skin cancers are probably going to potentially pop up, but so I'm keeping an eye on myself.